Hey, everybody. How are you out there? To my P3 Christian Radio audience, hello. And to my social media and my online world, hello. Hello. This is your host, Beverly Francois, and welcome to the grind behind the business. I am so excited today because today this is our first podcast for the grind behind the business, and I'm very excited. So, for those of you who have been supporting, this is just an extension, and I hope you do enjoy. If you are viewing this or listening, share with your friends, subscribe to whatever page there may be, and just support in whatever way. Prayer. I really do need the prayer. So, shout outs to all of you supporters and all of you guys who have supported me over the years. But today we have a special guest. This person is a special friend of my family. I have known him for a very, very long time. He played a major part in helping me to become who I am today. He believed in me at a time in my life where I was at a not good place. And he prayed with me, he helped me, and he really encouraged me, even as a business person. And he is an entrepreneur in himself, but he is also a minister. So today I introduce to you none other than Mr. Tim Hunter. How are
Good,
you today,
good to see
Tim?
you, Bev.
Yes, how are
Good to see you.
you? Yes, yes. So, Tim, you are the owner of Loving Hand Home Care
That is correct.
and A to Z Delivery. And you are also a minister of the gospel at Bethel Deliverance International Church. Um, you wear lots of hats. You're a father, you're a husband, and I know that you're a major community activist. You're always getting involved in so many different things in the community and always trying to uplift men in it in general. So today we're gonna talk to Tim about the way he feels about how men need to um, what they need to give or be more committed in the community. But before we get into that, I want to find out a little bit about your humble beginnings, Tim. I want to get a little background, and so I want to know what was some things that you did as an entrepreneur, because I don't know if you started in the entrepreneurial world as a child or as a kid, because I know a lot of people started from teenage and then they just sprung up, selling stuff in the schoolyard or having their little thing. What sprung you to start as an entrepreneur? What was the thing that led you? Because I know there's a story behind this and you have a great testimony behind this. And I think it's important that men hear this because you have come from a place where it wasn't as great. And today we look back, God has blessed you and has put you in a great place. Give me your testimony, Tim.
So I think that's a great place to start because I consider myself to be like the poster child for ex-offenders, people who've made mistakes in their lives and have been able to turn it around because of God's grace. My beginning was the story's phenomenal, but my beginning was truly humble. Um, um, Being born to an addicted mother who was on drugs and then going through that whole gang, drugs, incarceration piece in my life, um, and being one of the people most likely not to succeed in life and having come to the place where I am is nothing short of a miracle in God's good grace. because I know that where I am is only because of who He is. It's nothing I've done on my own, nothing I could have achieved on my own, nothing I could have worked out on my own or brought to pass on my own had it not been for the love of God and God's power working in my life to bring me to where I am today. I said my mother started by saying that my mother, when I was born, my mother was an addict. And so as a baby, I was born as a preemie. So I had a lot of medical conditions, a lot of problems. I ended up growing up in a community. We were very poor, ended up getting involved with drugs and getting involved with gangs, and ended up doing the recidivism piece that a lot of our brothers find themselves in, in and out of prison, going in and out of jail. And I joke with people because if you see me today, you would not believe the person I used to be. I
Yeah.
mean, I tell people, and people do not believe me when I tell them I never had a job before I was 36. I mean, my first real job was a prison job. I mean, my
Wow.
first job was working in the
Yeah.
kitchen in the prison in the kitchen.
Yeah.
And so, but it reminds me of, it's so funny because I was listening to Judge Mathis the other day, and he was telling about his testimony and how he had
Yes.
went to jail
Yes.
and spent 9 months in jail. When he got his law degree, came out and became a lawyer, then became a
Free.
judge, and the Supreme Court didn't want to. I mean, they didn't want to grant him his license. He had to fight for that. But what I
The
found out,
struggle
what
is
we found out
real.
is the same thing. The struggle is real. But here's the thing I tell people: with God, the playing field is level. I mean, there's nothing you can't do if you set your heart and mind to it. And we have this saying we tell people that aren't even Christians. We say, if you believe it, you can achieve it. I say, if you see it, you can receive it. In other words, if you see it, as believers, we're called to walk by faith and not by sight. And when I say see it, the world says seeing is believing. And it really is. For us, we have to see it spiritually. We have to see what's possible. We have to see that we can really do all things through Christ who strengthens us. And then we rise to the occasion and we become everything that God created and called us to be. But that humble beginning, I never saw myself as an entrepreneur. I never saw myself working in business for myself. It sort of kind of fell in my lap. I mean, God literally created the opportunity, opened the doors, and I just walked through and took advantage of what God presented me with. And so it has afforded me to be able to live the life I live, to be able to, take care of my kids the way I do, to be able to enjoy some of the finer things of life. Because at the end of the day, when God opened the door finally, when I was willing to listen, when I really began to understand I had a purpose, when I understood that there was something that God was calling me to do in the earth,
Yeah.
besides just,
Yeah.
be here and exist, and I started to pursue that, I began to find my dreams being fulfilled and accomplished. I had was called New Vision Distribution Services. And I started that with the gentleman I met at a Christian halfway house. Matter of fact, it's so funny because I came out and I went to Orleans Technical Institute to take up a trade. I was going to become an electrician. Always been good with my hands. And a guy I knew named Reggie was doing distribution out the back of his car. And I asked him, could I do it with him? And I started doing it with Reggie. And we started delivering circulars and flyers in the city of Philadelphia out of a car. So we had 1,000, then we had 5,000, then we had 10,000, then we had 20,000, then we had 50,000, we had 100,000. Then I was doing 350,000 newspapers every day in the
Oh,
city of Philadelphia. From
wow.
a car to a van to a truck to 3 trucks to a warehouse. And I'm telling you, it's just the hard work, putting in the hours. I tell people, I built my business the old fashioned way.
The
And
old-fashioned
basically I
way.
had a goal, and my goal was simply to talk to 10 people every day. I
Now, do
didn't know
you
anything else.
think, this is my question, do you think, had you started that business now in 2023, 2022, would it have been the same? Would you have had the same skill set and go through the same struggles?
Yes, but it would have been a little different. So
Yeah.
back then you did everything literally by knocking on doors. So I would go out every day and I would knock on 10 doors every day. My goal was to talk to 10 people every day and close 3 accounts every week. That was the goal. So I ended up getting the News Gleaner, the Breeze, the Only Times, the Metro, the Aldea. I ended up getting all these newspapers in the city because I had a goal, and I set that goal and I worked that goal. And I just went out and I pounded the pavement the old-fashioned way. We don't do it that way anymore. It's all social
No, they
media.
do
It's all
not.
social
They do
media.
not. And not only that,
It's
everything
all
now is
social
so
media driven.
technology driven, you
Yeah.
know, everything. So going, I don't even think people do a lot of mailing out stuff. That's like becoming like a dinosaur thing now. Like, unless you're getting the coupons and the magazines and the stuff that comes to the house. But
Right.
yeah, that's
Yeah.
like,
I,
wow. And I remember those days because those were important things for people like me, Yeah.
once I got a taste of what could be done when I set my mind to work, I was all in. I was sold out, and so I
Wow.
joke. I used to work literally 16 hours a day. I would run and pick up flyers, drop flyers off, meet with clients, deliver stuff, drive at 4 in the morning, go home, sleep for 2 hours, get back up 6 in the morning and drive again. And so once I got a taste of what work was like and what it was like to build something and accomplish something, I was hooked.
Let me ask you
But
this,
here,
Jim.
so can I say this? The
Sure.
problem is a lot of times us as guys, we don't have a proper role model. We don't have somebody who helps us understand what to
Mm,
do. I didn't have a father in my life. I didn't have somebody showing me how to be a man. I didn't have somebody I could emulate or a pattern or follow a pattern uh, to know how to be a man or even know how to even work because there were no men in my life that really had jobs. They were, they just weren't there.
yeah, yeah, yeah. This is where we're going to stray into the need for men in the community. Now that you brought it up, I often hear that they have these male crisis identity, where a man identity and who he is, the real essence of a man, is being taken away now because of so many different things: society, the way that men are being treated, the things they got to go through, um, wanting to be king at home, but coming home to not even that because they have to deal with so much emotionally. And just like you said, growing up without a dad, growing up without that backbone, thank God he guided you. But there are men who don't have that. What are your take on that particular topic? Because male identity is real. A lot of these men now are becoming so we as we grew up in the old fashioned way, but then even in the nowadays, women are looking for men to be men and to stand up and to back them up. What are your take on that?
So it's funny because I tell my sons all the time. I say, if you don't have a job, you're not a man, first of all. And so I mean, I say that and it sounds hard, but I think that men, we have to be tough on the boys. We have to be tough on boys because at the end of the day, you're not raising a boy, you're raising a man. And so you have to teach the boy how to be a man. And men have to be able to provide, protect, and guide their families. And so that takes um, a level of toughness, a level of understanding what you're to do and how you're to do it. And so we know that all has to be worked out and has to be worked through all the societal problems that men have to face. I said this to my son the other day, and this is true, and this is what I really believe. I believe that God, like I said, the playing field is level. And what I mean by that is that God puts in every person an opportunity to rise above circumstances and situations and to fulfill their God-given purpose. The
Right.
problem is remember, every day we all still have choices. We all have
Choices.
choices. And so while the ground and the environment where you are planted helps shape your view of life, there's something internal in every human being. I know this to be true because there was nobody. I used to joke with Beverly. I used to say, when I was born to the wrong family at the wrong year, on the wrong day, in the wrong hour, the wrong
Oh my
hospital,
God.
and the wrong make it. If I can get it together and if I can find a way to fulfill my God-given purpose, if I can find a meaningful way to contribute to society, then I believe everybody can. At the end of the day, I believe God gives everybody something to turn to Him so that He can give them what they need. The problem is people don't know where to find it. So they're kind of lost. They're lost. They're lost. And
Yeah,
it's not,
yeah.
listen, it's not that it's not there. They just don't know how to find it. And here's where we come in. We have to be the people who sort of kind of help guide people. Everybody should be
Right.
mentoring somebody, helping somebody,
That's
steering
good.
somebody, you know what I mean? Encouraging somebody, helping
That's
somebody
good.
figure
That's
out
good.
what they need to do, And so I think that if people, if people, if guys can get together and find a way to share what we need to do through humility, through cooperation, through the working together for the common good of the community, not our individual selves, then I think that we'll see a lot of change take place in our communities, and men will start to fulfill their purpose. The bottom line is a lot of guys don't know what to do. Now, I'm speaking from an ex-offender. I've always wanted to do better. I just
Right.
didn't know how to do better. You know what I'm saying? I always knew that
Yes,
I was
yes,
capable to do
yes.
more. I just didn't know what the more was to do. I always knew that God wanted to do something significant with me, but I didn't know what it was. I knew I was here for a purpose, but I didn't know what
Yes,
the purpose
yes.
was because nobody was there to tell me or help me figure it out. You know, when you grow up in a negative environment where you're told you're not going to be anything, you're just like your dad who was nothing, or you know what I'm saying, and you don't have the proper, you don't have the proper thing to behold, the thing to look at, to be able to inspire you
That
and
goal
realize
that
that
you
there's
need to
more. And
aspire to.
yeah, exactly. Then you tend to not believe it's possible, or you don't see it as an alternative, and you tend
Yes,
to lose hope. So
yes.
here's God. God's here. He's pulling at people's hearts. We know as believers, we're the light in the earth. We're the salt of the earth. We have a greater responsibility to help people find what they're looking for, because everybody has something
Mm.
in them that God's put on them to look for Him. And if they find
Yes,
Him, they'll find their purpose.
yes, yes, yes. Now, you mentioned mentorship. And
Yes.
I know that's like one of the major ways that we can get the men out in the community, but it's to get them there. It's to get them to come out and mentor. I know my husband does mentorship through whatever group that he's in. I think it's the Big Brothers group or something like that. And in whatever way. And I think mentorship, what are some ways that people can mentor, Tim, as men? Because we don't really have to join a group to be mentors.
One thing I try to always do is I try to steer guys in the right direction. I try to share information I think is going to be helpful. I want to see the body first and foremost, the brothers in the body achieve their full potential and become everything that God created them to be. So I'm always sharing information. I'm always giving stuff that I think would be helpful and pertinent to them being able to move in a direction to give them some financial stability and help them to fulfill God's good and perfect will for their lives. A lot of times the problem is that I said this before, humility plays a great role in it all. And because remember, God's working behind the scenes.
Yep.
And so if
Yep.
I have that humility piece, he's gonna open a door. I'm gonna see it for what it is. I might have to sit under somebody just to learn how to do what I want to
Mm,
do.
that's
And
so
for a lot
good.
of us, we don't want to
We don't
sit
want to do
behind.
that.
We don't want to be mentored like that. We don't want to feel less than,
Yeah.
or you know what I'm saying? We don't want to be second, you know, in line. We want to be in the lead position, or we want to be the captains of our own ship. A lot of times for us as men, think about it. We struggle with connecting. We struggle with being open. We struggle with being honest. We struggle with being supportive. We struggle with connecting in a meaningful way because we've never had that as a paradigm. We've never had that as a model for us to
That
get
is
from.
so true.
So listen, if I don't reach out to somebody, it's not going to happen because our natural tendency is to be like this.
Yes.
And watch this. So, but there are fraternities and there are groups of guys who get together, and what they do is they put their heads together. They work towards a common goal to accomplish something good for the community. It's more needed in our community.
Yes.
And I ask people this, and this is a question for the viewers to think. I always ask people, I say, Bev, are we more in the light now as a
Mm,
race of people, or are we more in the dark? And so I get a
good
whole lot of
question.
conflicted answers. But at the end of the day, we have to be more in the light because there are more teachers, more doctors, more lawyers, more educators, more sheriffs, more judges, more politicians. We even had a black president. Come on now. So
There are
the problem,
influences and
the,
examples out there.
exactly. So the problem is not outside of us. The problem is inside of us, and it's what we're not doing so that we can come together as a community and work to solve our problems in our community instead of looking for
I
people
agree.
outside our community to solve our problems. I tell people all the time, and so I've had several different businesses, and starting where I started with the delivery business, which I still have,
Hmm.
starting Loving Hand Home Care. In between,
That's
I had
right.
a landscaping and snow business. I've had a cell phone store. I've had a marketing company where you worked for me at the marketing company. So I just keep trying things because I know if you try enough things, it's sort of kind of trying to find the one thing to get you to where you want to be financially. And a lot of times our guys, because we don't reach out, because we don't make the extra effort to connect, guys are not inspired and they sit on the sideline hopeless because nobody's really pulling them up and putting them in the game and helping them understand what they need to do to be successful.
Even in the world of women, the humbleness, it has to be there because there has to be a willingness to submit to whomever is teaching you. You have to be teachable. I always hear Pastor Norman from Bethel Deliverance International Church say that. When he taught us in the cell ministry, he said, it's important that you have a teachable heart because
Yes,
you're
that's
never
right.
you don't
That's
know
right.
enough.
That's
It's
right.
always have that humbleness to learn more, to
That's
eat
right.
it up and to understand what God is telling you and how he is leading you. And to do
That's
so, you
right.
have to have a
That's
teachable
right.
heart.
That's right. I
So yeah, that's good. That's really good, Tim.
so over the last few years, I've hired several different coaches to sort of kind of help coach me in the business, to help me figure out what I need to do and how I need to do it. I
Wow.
know what my vision and my dream is. I just didn't know how to get there. So a lot of times that's the humility piece, realizing I don't know everything. I don't have all the pieces. I don't have all the knowledge, and finding other people who can sort of add to what I
None of us do,
need
Tim.
to know to get
None.
to where I need to go. You know what I mean? Reaching out to folks. So I went to
Yes.
this marketing company, I joined this mastermind group. You know what I mean? I hired a personal coach, investing in me so that I can get to the next level, financially. But if I don't make
Yes.
an investment in me, and I want to say this about the financial piece, because we talked about the spiritual piece, but at the end of the day, remember, Martin Luther King was public enemy number one by the FBI when he was here. And the reason he became public enemy number one and they wanted to kill him and get rid of him was because he was talking about making economical impact. I say this all the time, and I know people are going to get mad and they ain't going to like it. You can march until you drop dead. They don't care if you march. What you got to do is affect the economy. Because at the end of the day, uh, our government, our system, our capitalist system is ran by money. It's governed by money. And so at the end of the day, the only way you can make an impact or a difference is you need to be able to control the finances in your community. That's the only way you can change the situation, the circumstances in your community. And so think about it. The thing that gets the attention of the politicians, the judges, the police, is when you have economic impact, when you can connect, when you can impact your community economically, you can change your community. That's why the Asians get service. That's why the Jews get
They
service.
come
And
together
the
as
people,
well.
and
There is a
they
there is
come
a
together.
it's a togetherness within the Jewish community, within the Asian community, within most community. I don't see it a lot in the Black community, but those
Because
other
there's no
communities,
humility, because there's no real humility and
right? And
trust.
maybe it's because of the background. Maybe it's because of our history. Maybe because of the struggle so long. But at some point, like you said, we have influences now. We have examples now. It's time to come out from under the muck. It's time to raise yourself up and do something and become something. I mean, when you're young, you're young. You don't know better. You make mistakes. You do dumb stuff. But at some age, at some point in the game, you have to start saying, okay, I have to become that light, that thing, that father, that uncle, that
That's right.
thing. It's
That's
that
right.
that stance. You have to
Right.
take that stance
Right.
at some age.
That's right.
There are men out there who
Right.
are 50, 60, still partying, jumping up and down, doing everything else but being a beacon in the community,
That's right.
being that light, that influence, that example that is needed in the community. And we as women, we need that. It's a struggle for us. And some of us are becoming very, I want to say, masculine because of that, because we're looking for men to stand up in certain areas and they're not. So, as women, a lot of times we have to step up
Mm-hmm.
in the plate and go,
Mm-hmm.
all right, I got to
Mm-hmm.
do this because,
The
and it
void.
brings out the masculinity in us and it's not good. And I tell
Yeah,
people
that's
that's not good.
mm-hmm. Well, the void has to be filled by somebody, right? The,
Yes.
the void has to be filled. Somebody has to step up and take a leadership role. Somebody has to step up and be willing to do what needs to be done so that we
Mhm.
can accomplish what needs to be accomplished in our community. Somebody has to be willing to do the hard work. And that's what that goes back to my point about raising men. Too often, what women raise are boys instead of men. They're too soft on them. Well, that's
You're
part of the
right. No,
program to
you're
teach them
right. You're right. God
man
knows
up
why you
heart.
didn't give me no boy.
If you
I'm
pamper a
soft.
boy and don't make him a man, you're gonna raise a boy. You're not gonna raise a
Yeah.
man. You got to remember, when you raising that boy, you're not raising a boy, you raising a man. And
Yeah.
everything is geared to developing his manhood, not his boyhood. And so, that's part of the issues too. So us as older guys ought to be reaching back, getting the younger guys. I take my guys to prayer. Every time we have prayer, I take my guy. Matter of fact, I made my son sign up for my course at that I'm teaching at the Institute. I take little Wilmer, who's 9, with me to prayer and to Bible study. Why? Because he needs to, one, see me there. He needs to understand what his role is. He needs to understand what the will of the Lord is for his life. He needs to be able to see all that stuff, and I'm the one to make him do it. I said this to somebody earlier today. Whatever they are is a reflection of us.
Yes.
We have to be the ones that pour into them and give them what they need to be able to figure out what life is about. And so, I mean, now, until they get to the age of accountability, once they get to the age where they are grown, then, listen, you've done your best, you know what I'm saying? And then, your hands are off. You just you put them in the hand of the Lord.
Now,
So,
Tim, this is one of the sensitive topics for me, and I'm speaking to you about this based on as a woman's point of view. I know for me, what I'm very sensitive about is about men being fathers to their children, but most of all, protecting their young girls.
she'll tell you, my daughter's well up there in age, and I still tell her to bring the guys home so I can meet them. She makes it dating somebody, bring them past and let your dad meet them, so he can know that you have a father who cares about you, and he just can't treat you any old kind of way. I tell Tiana the same thing, that at the end of the day, I'm here to protect her. And so I put those boundaries in place. I give her the information to understand how guys think, how guys look at women. That's important. And I make sure I bond with her and spend time with her so that she can know she's loved by me.
A to Z delivery. We know that that's the delivery service, and
Mhm.
you do deliver. What are the things that you deliver, just for everyone's sake of understanding and knowing?
So A to Z Delivery was started as an alternative to the Postal Service. In other words, I started the company to do exactly what the post office does, but to do it for less and to provide a door-to-door service just like the post office, but get it out of with the other mail and deliver it individually by itself, which kind of gave the client, specific. It gave the client a special place because we would beat we would beat the mailman news out, advertisements out, and then we would also put the piece out by itself, which gave it sort of kind of special notice. But so that business has kind of faded, and I'll tell you why. The advertising dollars now are really on the internet. So what we have left is a minimum amount of newspapers. We still do newspapers. We still do some local newspapers in the community. We still do bulk distribution, that sort of type of thing. But my main focus now, because of the way everything's digital, print, once us baby boomers, me, like I'm a baby boomer, once I die off, ain't nobody picking up newspapers and books anymore. It's like the generation come along now, everything's digital and it's in their hand. So the A to Z delivery is dying out. And I'm looking
Yeah,
some
yeah.
other options because I have the trucks and I have the drivers, and I can always transition into delivery of doing
Right,
packages, which is huge now. So that's
right.
something I'm thinking about doing. My heart, my passion, though, I've always had an entrepreneur spirit, and so my heart and my passion has always been in doing ministry too. And so loving
Yes.
and home care was started because I was already going into nursing homes and working with the elderly, working with seniors. I have been volunteering at Bethel for 11 years with the Labors and Mercies Ministry. I actually started with them in 2001, took a few years off, came back to Bethel, and picked right up where I left off. Because you found something you love to do. And I always said this,
Yeah.
when I started loving hand home care, I said I wanted to find something, Lord, I would do whether I got paid or not to do.
Mm-hmm.
I wanted to find something I would do whether I got paid or not to do it.
That's the
So who
key.
of us
Yes.
wouldn't help an elderly neighbor? Who of us wouldn't help Miss Jones take out her trash?
Wow.
Just my way of giving back and encouraging them. I get them up, I have them all dancing, I'm on the floor with them,
Yes.
playing songs and dancing and singing with them, and your independence from you. We're coming in to help you maintain your independence so you don't have to go into a retirement community, or you don't end up having to go into a rehab or a nursing home. So
Yes.
that's what we're there to do. And so that's what we do at Loving Hand Home Care. And so the way to reach me is you can reach me at Tim Hunter at lovinghandhomecare.com. You shoot me an email, or you can call me at the office number at
Mm.
267-971-2974.
Yeah.
That's Tim Hunter at lovinghandhomecare.com, or 267-971-2974.
Nice, nice. So Tim, is there any shout outs that you may have?
Anybody who's listening who may have been where I'm at, where I was at, I want to say this to the guys out there who thinking they can't get it together, that it'll never work out, they'll never be successful, that all the cards in the deck are stacked against you. No, they're not. God has a plan, God has a purpose, and if you follow his lead, if you trust the Lord, if you believe in your ability to be able to accomplish what God has already deemed you should achieve in the earth, then nothing is impossible for you. There are many opportunities for guys who are like me, who had criminal records. And it's very easy. There's tasty cake routes, there's soda routes. All those are owned by independent guys. And those guys make $2,000, $3,000 a week, getting up at 4 in the morning, working at 12 in the afternoon, and pulling down a couple of $1,000s a week. So every time you see one of those trucks, the bread truck, the potato chip guy, the tasty cake guy, just remember, those are independent guys. And if nothing else, you can always go get a trade. You can always go learn a trade. Nobody's going to care where you come from or what you do if you can fix the plumbing or if you can fix the electricity.
That's right. That's good, Tim. That is really good. So right now, I think we're kind of wrapping it up. And I have to give a shout out to our sponsors, of course. Automotive. We all know him to be Carlton Alston at Alston Automotive on Broad Street. You can reach them. You can reach out to their website, which is www.alstonautomotive.com. Check them out for all of your auto needs. And now, Tim, I am so thankful that you're here today and that you came. And I think what we're going to walk away with today is just the understanding that we're in need of men in general, whether it's the community, whether it's the family, whether it's wherever, the men. And I think it's a wonderful point that you made when it comes to influence and the mentorship and just stepping up to the plate and doing what we need to do, and just doing what the men needs to do. So for all you men out there, if you're listening to this podcast, whether be on online or at the P3 Christian Radio, just know that we're in need of you. You may think that your influence may not be heard or it's not even needed, but it is.
Mm-hmm.
Every ounce of it. We need men. We need men to step up. We need to see the men. We need to know that they're there for us, supporting us, backing us up, not just as women, but the children. And so just the community. We love it when we see men out there doing the right thing. And I thank you, Tim, for being a beacon of light in the community and just pulling yourself out from way back when you started out and as an ex-offender, but now look at God just working in your life. And I think it's an awesome testimony, not just for me, but for others who are listening to say, hey, I can do something with my life. I don't
Mm-hmm.
have to stay here. And
Mm-hmm.
I know there are a lot of people who have done prison time and came out and feel like that's it. That's the end of it. I can't really move anywhere or become anything. And here we have an advocate of that.
Mm-hmm.
Tim, thank you today.
You're
Thank you
welcome,
so
Bev.
much for being a part of the grind behind the business. Okay, guys, tune in next week. Next Tuesday, we have Pastor Norman as our special guest. He's going to be talking to us about marriage and his book. And so I just want everyone to If you are supporting and supporters of this page, tune in next week, next Tuesday at 6:30. Um, to myself with Pastor Norman. And if you are on the P3 Christian Radio, tune in on Saturdays at 2 p.m. and 7 p.m. Don't forget, if you're going to tune in online, that's the podcast. Next Monday, Pastor Norman. But if you're going to listen to me on the radio, P3 Christian Radio, and for all of you who are listening, I'm on there at 2 p.m. and 7 p.m. And thank you for all of your support. And without ado, it's time to go. And I'll see you next time. Bye now.